It's a long time that we've heard the Prime Minister talk about anything other than COVID.
Yeah.
Is this a sign of things to come?
This is a sign that the government's trying to move the conversation on. Today is being internally referred to in Number 10 as Crime Day. It almost feels a bit like we're back to that sort of normal grid structure of politics where announcements are trying to be made. We heard yesterday the Labour Party trying to make the day about their new economic plans. Today, the Conservative Party is trying to make it all about crime, and they feel that they've got a strong story to tell on crime. A very big difference from the days of Theresa May. They're recruiting 20,000 extra police officers.
Which only takes them back to Labour in 2010.
That's certainly true. Extra from where we were in 2016 rather than from where we were before then. But the bigger question is this whole package of measures. That some of it is re-announcements. The Safer Streets Fund, for example, which was a fund that was announced in the wake of the Sarah Everard murder. That's part of this package today. There's also going to be greater tracking of burglars after they're released, who've served their sentences. They're going to be tracked in the community so that we know where they are. And if there are future burglaries, potentially those people could then be re-arrested. There's a whole series of different measures. Antisocial behaviour is another large part. There's been a rise in antisocial behaviour. The Prime Minister has said potentially as a result of some of the lockdown measures, people getting frustrated. Well, there are greater measures for community service. The Prime Minister...
Tom, hold your thoughts. We're going to sort your mic out because it's very good content. We want to make sure all our listeners hear it. So what we can go to now is the clip from the Prime Minister when he was out and about in the rain today.
Obviously, that we're 6 days into some better figures, but it is very, very important that we don't allow ourselves to run away with premature conclusions about this. The step 4 of the opening up only took place a few days ago. People have got to remain very cautious, and that remains the approach of the government. Young people in this country are doing an incredible job of coming forward to get vaccinations, and the figures are outstanding. I mean, it's like almost 70% now of 18 to 30-year-olds come forward to get jabbed. It's just wonderful, but it is a great thing to do. I would just say that my message to everybody is get your first jab if you haven't yet got one, but get your second jab too, and it will help you protect your family, and help us all move forward. I know that people have been frustrated about the pinging and the self-isolation. I totally understand that, particularly now as we're starting to see some better figures. But I think everybody understands that this is still a very dangerous disease. We do need to use the tools that we have. Self-isolation is the one that we've got. I urge people to do it, but don't forget, folks, that we're coming forward with the new system from August the 16th. We'll come forward with the test to release approach then. Until then, please can everybody stick with the programme.
Prime Minister Boris Johnson, they're enjoying a great British summer in the rain.
There's one person who doesn't need to think, oh my gosh, my hair's going to be ruined if it gets wet. Sorry, serious stuff.
That was about COVID. Let's just finish off the discussion on crime. Tom, I was going to say what do you think of this observation? We're trying to move it on from a sort of post-Brexit, post-COVID political fixation, which has driven us all slightly mad in recent years, back onto the sort of bread and butter issues of politics like crime. Isn't crime one of those issues that goes down well with the Tory base, if you like, but also goes down well in those red wall seats that the Tories have to retain if they're going to maintain their majority? So while a lot of the commentariat, a lot of people on social media may berate Downing Street for being, tough on crime, it does make electoral sense.
It absolutely does. And of course, Tony Blair understood that it made electoral sense with his famous soundbite, tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. It's something that Theresa May, I think, didn't understand so much in 2017. We talk a lot about dementia tax in 2017 as an issue for Theresa May. Actually, a lot of the issues of crime starting to rise from 2016 really, really damaged her. And it's what Boris Johnson, in his leadership campaign back in 2019, all those years ago, or it feels like decades ago, really. But of course, a huge part of his leadership campaign was bringing back stop and search. It was investing in more police. It was this idea that the Conservative Party had lost its way as the party of law and order, and trying to get that back under control.
He also talked about COVID. What were the main points that we should take away? People are getting slightly excited, perhaps, about the 6th consecutive day fall in infection rates. Is he trying to rein us in?
Well, I think that the government's very nervous about this. We know how many times they've got excited before and then were bitten. Who can forget eat outs to help outs just last summer? Before then we saw that almost exponential rise again. I think that really what government scientists are saying is we need to wait another couple of weeks. We know that there were several events that led to the cases falling right now that we can see. For example, the wonderful weather that most of the country had last week. The fact that nightclubs weren't open until Monday last week, now that might feed through. I mean, we've got worse weather this week. We've got more open this week. There's some reason to think that this might not sustain. We're probably not going to see the hundreds of thousands of cases that some doom and gloom scientists were predicting, but is this fall going to really sustain the whole way through? Potentially not. What a lot of people are saying now is that we need to wait 2 weeks to see what the real effect of that Freedom Day, that step for reopening was, because of course these things do all have lags.
And just finally, Tom, Gloria and I spent a lot of our show yesterday sort of grappling with this idea of students and young people getting the jab. Maybe they may have to get the jab if they want to go back to face-to-face teaching at universities. The government, actually, I must say, seemed to be ahead of some of the teaching unions, if you like, urging for something closer to compulsory vaccination. The biggest union involved, Unison, which we highlighted yesterday, actually saying that we shouldn't be forcing young people.
It was the University College Union.
Yes. We shouldn't be forcing them to have jabs. So do you think the government will go ahead with really trying to force young people? Or do you just think that they're trying to get young people who haven't got round to it, they can't be bothered to realise, look, we really do want you to have this thing. They're not going to make you have it, but you really should.
Yeah, I think that your second point there is probably on the money. I think that really the government quite enjoys this confusion. Will they, won't they? Will they be compulsory? What they really want to do is drive that vaccine uptake as high as possible, because we know that 18 to 30-year-olds specifically have a lot lower uptake than older generations. So to some extent, confusion over the issue of vaccine passports, if it drives more vaccination, is in the government's view a good thing. Although I've got to say that when the Prime Minister appeared before the 1922 committee, that committee of backbench MPs, last week, a lot of people left that meeting with the impression that Boris Johnson doesn't want to introduce vaccine passports at all, and merely that it's a media strategy right now to try and drive vaccination up. And then when vaccination gets high enough, he can say, oh, we don't need them after all. Isn't that wonderful? We're back to a sort of freedom-loving country again.
And just finally, Parliament is now in recess till I think the 6th of September or something. A long while. Now, do we expect the politicians, the big parties, to take advantage of this summer, keep making announcements, or is politics going to fade away and they'll get their buckets and spades?
I think we're going to see quite a few announcements specifically from the Labour Party. Keir Starmer is going to embark upon a tour of the country, because he's been saying that actually one of the reasons that the Labour Party hasn't been doing so well in the polls is because he's been trapped, he's been pinged so many times, he's been staying at home.
There's something in there. He's never been able to give a speech to the public.
Oh, no one gets it. It's a ruse. Don't fall for that ruse. It doesn't matter. I know, but it doesn't matter. You've got a TV camera. You can transcend it. I mean, it's not about giving speeches.
He has
not having it.
He has been out and about a
I was trying to be nice to him.
No, I know, but and you know, I'm just trying to be fair to him.
And to be fair to the leader of the Labour Party, we've seen some narrowing in the polls in the last week.
Two polls.
Exactly, and there seems to be a consistent bit of a movement in Survation, which of course called the 2017 election correctly, or as close as any pollster, but also in Comres as well. We've seen a narrowing of those polls. Not so much that the Tory party is going down, it's dipping a bit, but the Labour Party rising up quite a way as well.
Tom Harwood, our political correspondent. Thanks for the chat.